All right. So if you are looking to author opportunities, I mean, capital A, you're going to create opportunities, not necessarily write, although you can write as an author, but I mean actually generate things and produce things that haven't been seen before. There is a universal approach to how you kind of get that first idea in front of somebody, and they can let you know if this is an idea that's worth their time or not. Now, this section I call it summary because there's different words for it, but really an executive summary is the language that's often used, certainly in industry, business, and academia, where you want to put that very short narrative in front of somebody. So, what is the executive summary? Kind of what are the parts of it? Well, you get into it, an executive summary is really kind of a one pager. It can go a little bit longer than that, and sometimes they're even called presidential summaries, but it's just a sheet that someone can kind of go through and be like, okay, here's the overview, here's what the ask is, here are the outcomes, here's what it's going to cost, not necessarily financially, but resources. And they get to then kind of ask themselves, is it worth responding to this email or this inquiry? And if you're fortunate, then you get past that and they say, great, looks interesting. Let's meet, let's get on Zoom, let's have a conversation. And that's the place where you get to put the pitch together, the actual kind of sexy document that's got pictures and more information. Now, one of the things I'm going to do in this class is I'm going to share with you different pitches from different multi-million and multi-billion dollar companies. And I know what you're thinking, like those are going to be the best looking pitches I've ever seen. They are rough to look at. They are oftentimes so far beneath the standards of the designers that are here in this class that you'd be surprised at how these things actually get picked up. So that is to say that you are already equipped if you have a great idea with the skills that you need to make the presentation at or above the standard of these other companies that have gone on to produce billions of dollars. So that might be surprising to hear, but it's true. And you have to remember that a couple things are happening in a pitch. You've got somebody who's really enthusiastic about it, and these pitches are often, kind of being led by, the future CEOs of these companies, and these are oftentimes charismatic, passionate, driven, super knowledgeable people about the subject, and they've got a really good idea, right? So the pitch has the story, it has the visuals, of course, it has the presenter, and all of these things kind of go together as you put it together. But before all that happens, something I used to have my students do all the time is go over to Kickstarter, and I've got a link here for you for that, but go to Kickstarter and start your own project on that platform. What I love about it, Gumroad does the same thing in kind of a different way, but what I really enjoy about Kickstarter is they will walk you through and they say, okay, first thing, like who's your audience? What area and industry are you working in? And then they start to ask you questions about your project title, brief project description, project narrative, who are you? And it just walks you through this entire pipeline very naturally. It's a free thing to set up. And you can then see like, oh, these are things I have to think about because they're going to ask you questions like, what are you making? What do people get? How much does shipping cost? How much does each unit cost? What are individual videos and things you're going to make? So go through the process. Just spend 5 minutes and do it and see what they start prompting you. It'll get your mind turning about problems that you're going to have to solve once you do this. So that's what that description is there. And as we get into kind of what the executive summary is, this is kind of my definition of the anatomy of an executive summary. You have a title, you have a contact, not a conact. That's not what we're after here, typo. Overview, you have the ask, you have the outcome, you have phases, which I talked about in my previous lecture. We have a precedence, and the precedence can oftentimes be what has been created that's like this before. So oftentimes we're trying to mitigate the risk of what people are putting into things by saying, this is just like this other company, but it's different this way. Or it's like this other thing, and there's proof that there's already a market for it because this company got there first, but we think we can do it better. right? So there's all sorts of different ways to approach this, and you don't have to be first to market, but having a precedence certainly makes things easier because you can point to their success and say, we can get a piece of that financial puzzle. Examples might be examples of your own work, like why are you the right person to actually build this company, build this project? And then you have your closing, which is simply a way of wrapping things up and saying thank you. So the title, all these things are here for you to read, but the title is a clear title for your project, should be reflective of what you want to make, create, or do. Your contact is obvious. Overview is a general introduction of the scope of the project. Often I'll include the ask in the overview as quickly as possible. Really, I used to write these things quite a bit, and the more I write them, the more I want to say, you know what, the ask is going in the first sentence. And you might say, what is the ask? Well, it's like the thing that you're actually asking for. I'm looking to do this. I need help doing this. I need support doing this. And if you just name it to people, the rest of the document is support for that. People think that you have to embed the ask like towards the end, like I got to sell them and then make the request. Like, no, just be honest and forthright and put it up there. This is what I'm trying to do. And if it's enticing enough in the beginning, they'll read on. If not, you haven't wasted their time. The ask is here. What do you want specifically? What are you asking for? The outcome. What are the benefits to the person you're soliciting and to the audience? Phases we talked about, but you can break that down into your most ambitious ideas into smaller ideas and smaller steps. These phases should follow a logical scaling up in the development and complexity of the project. I usually work these backwards, so I have the initial seed idea, and then I'll go all the way to the end and be like, what's the craziest thing that we could do with this? And then we can kind of work it backwards. Precedents, what else has been created? I already talked about that. Examples, your examples, and closing. So that's kind of the overview. I have some things in here that I want you to check out, but for the most part, there's a video and there's a template for the executive summary that I have. You can use your own words and ideas. You can use my template. My template is not the correct template. It is just a template. It's something that I created. It's my best attempt at communicating things directly and succinctly to the people I want to relay things to. Do they change? Yes, they change all the time. I've evolved my executive summary over the years quite a bit, but that information is there for you to check it out. And yeah, I hope you jump into this. That's what I want turned in by next class is your executive summary, something that's easily read, hopefully not over a page long, but if it does go over a page, that's okay. And you're going to be sharing those things out with your cohorts. So that's the very next step is you've got your prototype, you have your cohorts, you're continuing to refine your prototype, you write your executive summary, and not too far down the line, we're going to start to think about how do we help visualize this and contextualize this and start to address these things as a pitch. I hope that helps. As always, remember to think louder.